Our state is in a budget crisis like we have not seen since the Great Depression.
When I got here, this is what we were facing.
It started in September 2015 when coal, oil, and gas industries nationwide experienced an unprecedented drop in energy prices.
Severance and everything kept running away from us. It looked like things could even be more dire.
We're just finding out the state's bond rating has actually been downgraded.
It's another financial black eye for the state of West Virginia. Certainly.
This started with the governor saying in January of 17, "I have a vision."
I put in a revenue estimate of $129 million. And everybody stood back saying, no, 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 it'll never happen, it'll never happen. It is unbelievable, the 6-year plan that you are able to see today that has all black numbers.
And us West Virginians need to catch that same optimism that the governor has, because we are being held up as an example to other states, states like New Jersey and Illinois, of what a state should be doing.
West Virginia is making history. Governor Jim Justice says it ended the fiscal year with a budget surplus of more than $28 million.
And we need to be really proud, all of us, every last one of us, of what this state has accomplished.
Things have gotten consistently better since October of 17, month in, month out. Every month, the numbers just keep getting better and better. But I'm convinced that the second half of the governor's term is going to be even better than the first half, because the train has left the station as far as I'm concerned.
Be happy. How y'all doing? Oh. Oh, I'm glad you're here. I appreciate the little video that Kelsey put together. I saw it yesterday. Thanks for all the kind people that came out today. It is a good day. I know we've got some tough news going on with the Supreme Court, and that's not good. And it's, just to tell it like it is, it's a black eye, you know, that we don't need in West Virginia. And we'll work our way through that, I'm sure. But today, we've got a lot of really good stuff to report to you. And that's just this, is these are all of our revenue guys, and they work with the numbers every day and probably know the numbers better than anybody could ever imagine. For the year of June through June, for the year of June through June that we just finished, we're going to show, and I need really one of these, you know, maybe this or whatever. I won't be able to see it, but we're going to show a surplus even greater than what we reported to you before. Not a lot greater, but it's going to be 32.4 million. No, I'm sorry, 36. Let me get it straight here. 36 million from June to June. Now, the significance of that is just this. It's the first surplus that we've had, I think, in 6 years without a cut budget. And so you would naturally think, well, anybody would think, well, then things are really getting better. Again, let's pass credit where credit is due. What's my job? What was the job of our legislators? What is our job here? It is one and the same, in my opinion, and that is just this. It's to try to do everything in our power to perpetuate this state in a positive light that will bring goodness to our people. That is my job. That's all of our jobs. Now, we can say what we want, but we can actually identify. You see, I live in this world all the time of truth and logic and fact. I mean, I'm not hung up on all this distortion and everything else that goes on in life. I live in fact. Now, let's be real. The Republicans have been here for a short period of time, and they passed legislation that is having an impact in a positive way. It would be impossible for somebody to say that the Republican effort has not been successful. Impossible. It would be impossible to say that since I walked in this door that things haven't started to get better and better and better and better. It would be impossible to say that Donald Trump's impact on this nation and West Virginia and the tax reform has not had a positive impact on our people. Now, say what you want, but all the goodness that you're able to do, a 5% pay raise to all of our teachers and all of our government workers, all the different things, exemption of our veterans, all the things that we're doing, all these orange cones everywhere, everything that is going on all around us cannot happen. It cannot happen unless there is a performance from the state that brings revenue to the table. It can't happen. No matter how bad we'd like to do something, you know, if I wanted to, whatever it may be, no matter how bad government would like to do something, it cannot happen. It does not happen unless we as a legislature and I as your governor perform and have results. Now just think about this just for a second. Before I go any further, I can't say in any way other than the fact that the number that I'm about to present to you next is absolutely a number that will blow us all completely away. Now, I have to blame all this idea on Jordan because I said, Jordan, we need to give people cookies and everything, and he came up and said, everybody should have a lei. And so wherever Rebecca is, Rebecca, you bring these up and pass them out, and I want one for sure. And you can either take it and throw it in the trash can if you don't want it, or just be proud of where I get a purple one and white. I like it. I like it. Okay. Okay. Now let me just ease you into this, okay? For the past year, we have set an all-time record high in revenue. All-time record, okay? We set a revenue number of $4.245 billion. Now, all of the next line is just this. And feel good about your lay, feel good about who we are. Jordan, I'm proud of mine, and I don't know why you got a multicolored one, but now get this. For June to June, we came out $36 million ahead in surplus. For 1 month, July, 1 month in the new year, we're going to report a surplus of I'm going to get to it. June to June, 36 million. 1 month, July, 32.4 million. 1 month. I'm going to turn it over now to our people here, and they're going to tell you about severance taxes stabilizing, sales tax collections up, personal income tax collections through the roof, you know, consumer tax collections, you know, just on and on and on, the fastest growth rate, you know, blah, 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 blah. And it is unbelievable what is happening. And it's happening right now. It's happening in West Virginia today. So, Secretary Hardy, you're up.
Thank you, Governor. And I'm happy enough to wear a pink lei up here, Governor.
Oh, you look good. You look good in that.
As the Governor pointed out, two sets of numbers here I want to talk about. One is fiscal year 18. That's the fiscal year that ended June 30th of 18. And then we're going to talk about July of 18, which was a record-breaking month. Fiscal year 18, of course, the Governor points out, or did a minute ago, that we finished with a surplus of $36 million, and that was the year that ended June 30th of 18. That's the first surplus that West Virginia has had without mid-year budget cuts in 6 years. Every other time we finished with the surplus since 2012, we had to do mid-year budget cuts, which were very painful and difficult. That's the first time in 6 years we finished without doing the mid-year budget cuts. The number, though, that really just blew off the roof in fiscal year 18 was the period, the fourth quarter of fiscal year 18. That was April 1 to June 30th. And I've got a graph that's going to illustrate the point better than anything. We grew on personal income tax withholding in that quarter 9.1%. Personal income tax is an extremely important point when you're trying to measure the economic health of a state, and because that means people are working and having their taxes withheld. That quarter was 9.1%, but when we looked at the entire fiscal year, we grew for the entire fiscal year by 6%. Now contrast that to 17. When the Governor first took office, we were getting started, it was 1.5%, and then look at fiscal year 16. Fiscal year 16, we actually went down 2.4% on personal income tax withholding. That is a very negative number, and that's the number that if you wanted to try to measure whether people are working or not, that chart right there illustrates it better than anything. It goes from straight up from there to there to there. And
think about if you were on Wall Street and you were drawing a graph line. What would this line look like? I mean, just think about that. Think about that line. That's pretty daggum hard to dispute.
Absolutely, and that's a number that's been vetted and reviewed and provided by Mark Muco. Personal income tax and consumer sales tax are by far the two most important revenue streams that we have in West Virginia. As the Governor said, with respect to fiscal year 18, we finished with a revenue of $4.24 billion, which broke a record that was set in 2015, 3 years ago. Last point I want to make about fiscal year 18 is the last quarter of 18 was by far the best one. The one that, as I said, from April till June on the personal income tax. With respect to July of 18, we've closed fiscal year 18, now it's July of 18. We set a number of records that are extraordinary. I'll give you three that are just remarkable. One was that we finished, as the governor said, in July of this month, we had a $32.4 million surplus. Contrast that to the fact that the entire year last year, we had $36 million. So in 1 month, we almost had the same surplus as we had for the whole previous year. The last time that we had that much revenue in July was over a decade ago. It was in 2008. So we actually broke a record for a decade on how much revenue we received in July. As far as other points about July 2018, consumer sales tax in July 18 grew by 13.7%. That, the last time we had that much growth in consumer sales tax was over 6 years ago. And last but not least, our general revenue fund collections as a total were up 24.1% from prior year's July. In other words, July 17 to July 18, total revenue was up 24.1%. That is the largest growth rate for July in 7 years. So July of 18 was a historic month for West Virginia with respect to revenue. By all markers, consumer sales tax, personal income tax, prior year's tracking, we completely knocked the ball out of the park. And the governor has said many times, and I completely agree with it, better days are ahead, because we are just now starting to see the contracts that are going to be let, and I know Commissioner Smith is here, Secretary Smith, with the highway program. Those have not taken effect here. Many of the numbers that we see here are, as Mark Muco has pointed out to me, are non-manufacturing revenue from other activities that are occurring in West Virginia. So all these numbers indicate that the economy in West Virginia has done nothing but trend upward since January of 17, and particularly since October of 17, because that's when the numbers really started to escalate. So we're coming up now, and we are 10 straight months of very strong economic growth.
Go back, if you would, Jordan, to that personal income tax collection stuff slide. I think this is right, and I don't want to play accountant here, but are the numbers for July 13.5% on this slide?
Not on that slide.
Okay. Well, help me a little bit there.
July is the first month of fiscal year 19, and for the month of July, income withholding taxes grew by over 13%. So that was after a strong fourth quarter, we were up 9.1% at the last end of last year. We continued this year with that momentum, and we're up over 13% on withholding taxes.
Okay. Okay. Now, let me say one more thing, and then I'm done. I'm done, you know, other than answering your questions. But we've made unbelievable progress. But there's still people out there that are hurting. And we don't want to forget that. The more progress we make, the more we can help. At the end of the day, you know, what we want to do is make enough more that we can help all. And I can tell you that for those that are out there that are hurting, we're coming. And we're coming to try to help. I could give you a perfect example of something that happened to me this past Sunday. This past Sunday, I went with my son, and we went down in McDowell County, and we were down at one of the jobs that he was running down there. And there was a guy that came up, and he was actually looking for a job and applying for a job. And he said, I don't have a clue what his name was or anything, but he said, I'm from Charlotte, but really I'm from West Virginia. And 20 years ago, I had to move away to get a job. And my family's here, and I want to come back to West Virginia. And if you've got a job, buddy, I'd really love to have a job, you know. Well, he was a heck of an equipment operator in the end and everything, and so lo and behold, he's on his way back to West Virginia. There was another guy there, believe it or not, and he was from New England. And he had a New Englander's accent and everything. And he had driven from Kershaw, South Carolina. And he was doing the same thing, looking for a job, wanting to come here. I'm telling you, that's what it's all about, guys. That's the whole thing. And so at the end of the day now, I'll turn it over to you. It's a great, great, great day. Great day for West Virginia. So if you've got any questions, if they're halfway technical, talk to these guys.
Secretary, does that $32.4 million match with the updated revenue estimates from earlier this year, or was that just referencing the actual budget numbers?
The July of 18. The estimates for fiscal year 19, including the July 18 estimates, incorporate the governor's official revenue estimate, which includes the $58 million. So it's above the appropriation level set by Congress.
So that's $32.4 million above those.
Yes, for the 1 month, that 1 month.
We're talking about the highways program. Is there concern now that the costs are coming in higher than projected and money may not be sufficient to do all the projects that have been promised around the state?
I wouldn't have expected anything less of you, Phil. You know, but right in the wake of all the goodness, you can some way, somehow extract something bad out of somewhere. But here's the thing, and Tom Smith is here, and Tom can come up here and maybe elaborate on that, but I'll give you the best I can give you too. And that is just this, we're gonna have another press conference, I think, on Friday maybe? Friday, and Tom is gonna bring numbers to the table that will show you just this. I think I've got this, but Tom, you can jump right in if I'm wrong. There was some scope of projects that we expanded as we went in. I mean, when we first started down the path, you know, like take a bridge, for instance, and then we expand the scope of the project to say, well, if we're going to close the bridge, you know, there's pavement that could be done here over 5 miles up to the bridge. And so we'd like to include that in the bid process as well, and therefore you could very well end up with a higher bid. There's other things here at play too, and that's just this. This is very, very difficult to forecast, but you have contractors that are out there that were really, really hungry, and now they're kind of getting fat. And so what they may try to do is glean off a few extra bucks, and we're not going to allow them to do that if we can possibly prevent that. You know, absolutely, without any question, there's things out there at play that no one could have anticipated, like, you know, President Trump's tariff on steel, you know, and so that changes the dynamics as well. I think you're going to see a very, very aggressive action towards anyone that would say that that great man right there, or his staff, or myself, tried to deceive someone and give them information just so that we could obtain their votes or their support. I mean, for crying out loud, you know, that's about as absurd as even from whether it could even, you know, move to the level of lawsuits or ethics charges or whatever it may be. You know, it's off the chart wrong and absurd, and it just gets right back to the same old, where you've got people that are trying to push us down. And I'm not referring to Phil, I'm referring to politicians that don't have anywhere else to turn, because all they can come up with is to try to say something negative, you know, to push us down. You know, that's the very thing that I'm going to try with all my soul to see doesn't happen. I mean, think about this. I'm going to give you some wisdom now. You know, I'm going to really deviate, but throughout history, rulers kept their people beat down and depended upon them so they could be royalty. And then those people were so dependent that they gave them food, and therefore they retained royalty. Well, in all honesty, we've been pushed down and kept down in this state for a long time, a long, long time. And I know without any doubt, you know, if you look back through the years, the Republicans are going to say, and it's very difficult to argue, that for 80-some years, we kept pitching a 50th. Well, we're not doing that now. I'm a real believer that I want the people to prosper. That's what I want. I am not going to stand around and just stand on the sidelines and let us, whether it be negative story after negative story, or a politician that, you know, that comes out of the clear blue sky and says, aha, but, you know, those 3 lights on the roof aren't twinkling. You know, to me, that's Nancy Pelosi. That's what that is. That's trying to stop and hold up the train and beat the people back down. I don't think we ought to do that. And we're going to have bumps, you know, to where we have a bid come in high and everything else, but that would be my explanation. Tom, if you've got something to say.
Governor, I think you've said it very well, but the only thing I'll add, and we'll be talking about this on Friday because I know the governor's going to want to talk about the goodness of the investments we've made. We've got over $1 billion bonded, the first sets of bonds out. We had Garvey bond number 1, number 2, the general obligation bonds, and then the turnpike bonds recently. I'm not going to give the exact numbers today, but what is phenomenal is the interest rates have been great. The other thing is if your investment packages are attractive to investors, they'll bid up what they'll pay for them. And so there is a significant amount of premium based on the governor's wisdom of let's bond while rates are low. There is a significant amount of premium that is additional dollars, millions and millions and millions of dollars of premium that actually help us offset cost. So, Governor, I know you're going to want to talk about that on Friday, but it's really a good news story similar to the one we've got here.
Well, the bottom line of the whole thing is we're going to get the jobs done. And we're getting jobs done every day. I'm pushing Secretary Smith this way, too. You know, we're all interested in our interstate jobs and our interstate projects, and we surely can't have bridges that are unsafe, and we've got to repair them, and on and on and on. But I'm constantly pushing him, and I am absolutely, you know, I know he thinks I'm a pain in the butt sometimes, but I am pushing him all the time towards trying to do more and more and more on the rural roads. I mean, I am pushing him every day to try to find an extra $10, an extra $10, and an extra $10 and fix somebody's road that they're driving on all the time. So this is a balancing act and everything, but there's lots of good stuff going on there too. Yes, ma'am.
Earlier in the press conference, you thanked Republican policies implemented in the legislature and also policies that Trump has implemented for the economic growth. Can you give me some specific examples?
Well, let's just go back. I mean, let's just think about what's happened, okay? You know, first of all, the Republicans took on a very, very difficult challenge on being able for this state to have a right to work law. Then they took on from the standpoint of being able to have things better from the standpoint of tort reform or prevailing wage and issues like that. For a long time, they sputtered, and we really didn't see a lot of impact, you know. Then along came this guy, you know, that came up with the idea on the road bond. And that was me. And all of a sudden, everyone, a lot of past governors would have said, there's no way we're going to take on this fight. No way in the world we're going to take on a fight for a $500 million bond. Well, we set out on a project of 5 times that, $2.5 billion of bonds. Everybody thought, well, you couldn't get it passed, and it passed by a majority like you can't imagine, by 73% of the vote. Then all of a sudden, just from that, along came Trump's tax reform. Along came right behind that, you know, the very thing that I knew was going to happen, and I told you it was going to happen, and that was our coal miners weren't dead. There was a day coming, and I told you that was going to happen. Then we took on education head on within our state, head on. That's what we did. We took it on head on. We got rid of that crazy A through F grading of our schools. We got rid of all this ridiculous testing. We put control back on the local level and gave flexibility in our calendar. Now, what did that do for us economically? I'll tell you exactly what it's doing. It is changing the way the world looks at us. That's what's happening. That's what's happening all around you, you know. And we can say what we want, but the truth is really simple. That happened from a Republican majority and a governor and a president. Now, those things happened, and these numbers don't lie. So we can say what we want, but by being able to have these numbers, we were able to deliver that 5% pay raise and all the other things that are going on. That is just plain fact. It's not braggadocious. It's just fact. That's all there is to it. Now, the other thing I would say is just this, is the outside world almost gets it faster than we do here. You know, but the outside world is now thinking, and I'll promise you this because I know it. I mean, I'm not telling you something I don't know. I know it. You know how they're looking at West Virginia today? Here's how they're looking at West Virginia. They're looking at West Virginia as the secret that they missed. They're looking at West Virginia as my gosh, how did we miss that place? How did we miss a place that abounds in natural resources like crazy? How did we miss a place that is so close to 2/3 of the population of this country, and it's got great workers and great families and low crime and faith-based and all that? How did we miss that place? Well, you know, and in addition to that, it's got 4 of the most unbelievable seasons for tourism. It's off the chart. Now, I said on day one, let's move education right to the forefront. Why is that? Is because the outside world always looked at us. That's how they look. You know the bad jokes people tell about West Virginia and have told forevermore. You know, we needed to stop that. We needed to stop all the bad jokes. You know, the first thing they think of West Virginia in the old days was we're dark and dingy and backward and ignorant and all that kind of stuff. So push education right to the forefront. They wouldn't have come here because our roads are torn up and they couldn't get here. And then once they got here, they were scared to death how they were going to get out of here. So fix the roads. Then the other thing is promote tourism. Spend some money promoting ourselves. That's what we've done. It's an avalanche of what we've done. And it's an avalanche of what has been done before I got here too, because those things are now kicking. They're all working. They're all just working. Look, I mean, good Lord of living, just look. Now, I'm going to add one last thing. There's so many great Democrats throughout the state of West Virginia, it's unbelievable. Great Democrats. That's all there is to it. Really great, good people. You know, The problem is not the people that are walking the streets out there, you know, because whether they're Democrat or Republican, in my book, those are great, great people. The problem is oftentimes we get a little deflected in here. And it's daggum hard to argue in here with the Republicans. It's daggum hard to argue the successes. It's easy for me to argue the other side. Okay, we don't have more questions. We're out of here. Go get a cookie. That means less I'll have to eat. Thank y'all again.